I'm Mary Hudson, President of the Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to the Hutch and Hutch podcast, courtesy of Adam behind the camera at KDUZ, KARP, and KGLB. Today with me, we're going to be talking about Hutch and Hutch, and I have with me Hannah Choflat from the United Way, McLeod County.
This is actually good. This is a good learning moment because everyone says our name differently, and it's almost the right thing. So we're United Way of McLeod County.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. I know, because I saw that on Facebook somewhere too. Yeah. It's like, is it?
Totally.
So, yeah.
Totally.
You're United Way of McLeod County.
Yeah, you're not the only one.
Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
It's a Monday. We always record these on Monday mornings, which makes everybody have to wake up.
That's right.
Yeah, right. So, but I'm super excited to have you here. Thanks for making the time because you are one busy person.
Well, you shouldn't be talking, but yes.
Takes one to know one, right? But I really appreciate this. If you don't know Hannah yet, you are going to fall in love with her. If you already know her, you already love her and already feel like she's your best friend because that's how you make people feel.
It's very kind.
You
Thanks.
have a hospitable aura about you.
Thank you.
That's what I'm going to say from now on.
I appreciate that.
Hospitable aura.
I really appreciate that. It's funny because that's a big part of kind of like growing up. We all have different family cultures, and hospitality has always been a big thing in my family, whether we were living in abundance or we weren't living in very much. My parents just did a great job of like welcoming people in, and that's something my husband and we appreciate that as well. So
yeah,
I appreciate
absolutely.
That.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say now that you kind of started that with your family, I happened to be on YouTube one day, checking out my friend Hannah, because you have an eclectic life collection of experiences so far. And there was a video because you were on a Norwegian reality show.
Yes.
And there was a video of you and your family all gathering together and eating and enjoying a holiday, I think.
Yeah. I have to be honest and say it was a fake holiday, but yes, it was.
Okay.
It was with it was at my aunt's. My aunt and uncle's home that actually was where my grandparent, my dad grew up. So
sweet.
It was really sweet because they, when you watch a reality show, they always have a little thing about the person. And so I reached out to my aunt and I said, Cindy, would it be okay if we kind of did a traditional, like what we would do for Thanksgiving or Christmas? And I was a little nervous. And my aunts went all out. It was like the traditional meal that we did for Christmas, and like even more so. So like you said, I was on a reality TV show and it took place in Norway, and it's all about Norwegian Americans who've never been to Norway before to go to Norway, compete in challenges, and learn about their ancestry. And so my family is very proud. We're very Norwegian. We're all tall. We have a weird last name. Like we're very Norwegian. And there's always Norwegian paraphernalia around the house. But when I got to my aunt's that day, there was like 5 times the things. So she reached out to family members. I don't know, community members. There were like trolls in the yard, and it was very sweet. So it was so nice. But yes, that was a really special little moment for my whole family.
I think if I said to my kids, "Hey, we're going to have fake Thanksgiving," they'd be all in.
Yeah.
Because a meal is where everybody is willing to gather. It's a little bit safer because at least everybody's putting something in their mouth half the time.
Yes, exactly.
So they can't spit out the
and
other
the food
stuff.
is really good. It was, but if you imagine, right now, we're having this casual conversation, but there's also a camera in front of us. So if you can imagine, 4 cameras in my aunt's dining room with all of us big Norwegian folks eating, trying to be trying to be cute about it.
And normal and natural at the same time.
Exactly. It was very sweet.
Let me just take a little bit of potatoes and a little bit of turkey. I don't want to be stuffed.
Yeah, you find yourself thinking, how do I eat? Do I eat like this all? You're just really thinking through. Anyway, it was very sweet. So
fun.
I'm glad you saw that.
Yeah, and then I think I told you a couple weeks ago. You also lulled me to sleep one night because you have the dreamiest jazz voice ever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So if you don't have anything to do later on tonight, hop on YouTube and put in Hannah Choflat and just see what happens. You never know where that rabbit hole will take you.
Yeah, you can definitely check it out.
You can also YouTube Mary Hudson, and it will be a real quick. There's nothing. There's maybe one little thing, maybe not even that. So
that is everyone does that. I think everyone Googles themselves. What could happen?
Yeah, what could happen? Or I don't know. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about United Way.
Yeah.
You came to United Way about just almost a year and a half ago?
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, I started in June of 2018. So yeah, about a year and a half ago.
So, and look at what you have done in such a short period of time.
Thanks.
Well, you kind of came in like a tornado, but in a good way.
Thank you.
Like, don't people think shark tornado is like a positive thing?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, it has been a whirlwind of a year for sure. This is my first time being an executive director. I've been in the nonprofit world my entire professional career, so I'm very passionate about the mission of a nonprofit, very passionate about community, and what's been really cool stepping into United Way, stepping into this community, has been, and I always say this, but it's been such a kind of VIP pass to understanding McLeod County, understanding Hutchinson, and the other 8 communities that make up our county, both understanding the great strength that we have here, the pride that people have living in these communities, and also understanding where our needs are. And so it has been a wonderful and wild ride, but I'm really proud of the work that we've done, not only this last year and a half, but we've been in the community for about almost 60 years, or a little over 60 years.
Yeah, and with some changes in there, it was United Way of Hutch, and then it came the McLeod County.
Exactly.
So you can embrace a larger region and also then serve a larger region.
Yep.
Right?
Correct.
So one of the things that you recently did, and I was so sad, it was Arts and Crafts Week, so I couldn't go.
Man, that was fun too, though. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You did a poverty simulation.
Yeah, so
let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. So United Way of McLeod County partnered with United Community Action Partnership, there's a bunch of words, and to do a poverty simulation. And so the UCAP folks have this wonderful simulation, facilitation ability, and all of this stemmed from a grassroots movement that really that's happening. It's currently happening in Glencoe. There's a wonderful woman named Eliza Tobin who is heading up a group called the Task Force, which sounds very cool. We kind of sound like ninjas. But she and I connected, and she'd been already meeting with this group for some time, and I got to learn more about kind of their mission. And this mission of this small group is to really address poverty and homelessness. And the poverty simulation was sort of the first sort of public thing that this group had done. And so United Way was really grateful to be asked to be a part of it, and we sponsored the event. And just to talk a little bit about kind of what happened and how it looked. So this took place at the Glencoe City Center. We invited, kind of intentionally, invited stakeholders in the community, not just Glencoe, but that's kind of where a lot of the resources were at that time, but across the county, looking at folks who are decision makers, leaders, people that are interfacing with, whether it's individuals or students or whoever. We did a lot of personal invitations from the task force. And from those invitations, we had about 60 folks in the room, as well as about 20 volunteers that came to help facilitate the day. And what happened basically was when you got to the space, when you got to the Glencoe City Center, you checked in and you were given a name tag. And that was, you didn't get to like choose it, they're all upside down, you picked one, and then you were no longer Mary Hodson, but then you were, Michael, whoever, age 43, and you walked into the space and you found there were chairs set up strategically around the room that were like kind of pods or families. And so in the middle of the room were all of these little family units, different sizes of families, different family situations, and then the outside of the room were all of kind of community, the things you'd find in a community. So I was like the grocery store owner, there was, a food shelf, there was a school, there was a jail, there was social services, kind of all those pieces that make up a community. And so for 2 hours, we participated in the community called Realville, and basically every 15 minutes was a different week. And there were 3 minutes in between that was your weekend. And every family had like a packet, and that packet basically told you what you had, what you didn't have. Is this resource still existing? Have the hours changed? And it's a living, breathing resource you can find on your phone or online. And so that's something that we're really trying to push our resources to get their information in, so we can continue to like have as much information as we can for people,
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly, new things come up, and I'm trying to figure out how do I direct people.
100%, because it is a moving target.
Yep.
The goalpost is always moving for these types of services in a community our size. I mean, there are almost 300 nonprofits in Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Well, let me just tell you how fun it is to keep track of who the new president is, who's the new secretary or the treasurer. Those things are really important, and so that's a great service.
Yeah, it really is.
It's 211. So it's like 411, 511,
yeah,
211.
Yep, and it's a free resource. United Way, we support it, so something that we want to make sure is available for our community and for the state of Minnesota. But anyone, you can call 211 or go online and update a resource or check out a resource. Because the thing that's really cool about McLeod County is we definitely have resources here, and we are a small county too, so there's also things we know that maybe we don't have, or we don't have as much capacity for, and so it's a really great resource to see, where in our state do we have the thing that you need, and is it available to you? So it's a really, really remarkable resource.
And because of our location, it's probably not too far away.
Right, that's true.
We're really lucky that
way. That's totally true.
Yeah. Let's talk about one of the things that I just want to finish up on, the poverty simulation, is a lot of people don't realize how many homeless people we have in our county.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The numbers that UCAP, I think she said 259 people that they helped last year for UCAP in 1 year in McLeod County.
Yep.
So 259 people don't have a place to live. They're couch hopping. They're living in their car. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it is, and it's very real. I think it's, sometimes numbers are so helpful because it really helps us know, okay, this is real, and the folks at UCAP, the folks that are resourcing and leading Homes McLeod, we're tracking those numbers, which is really awesome. But I can say on a really personal level, the first day on my job here in McLeod County in Hutchinson, just on the road, I was in my office and just trying to figure out kind of what I was doing, and all the first day things.
Right.
And
where is the bathroom, and where do I put my soda, and where do I get water?
Yeah, exactly. How do I get onto my email? And I mean, probably an hour into being in the office, I got a knock on my door, and a young man was there, and he was looking for a resource that was in our building, and got him to where he needed to go. And again, everyone's new, this job's new. I didn't know much about this person, but was able to follow up with the resource I got him to, just making sure I got him to the right place. And this, he was not a kid. I mean, he's 18, so technically an adult, but a kid, was living in in a state of homelessness. And he's a kid that went to one of the high schools in our county, graduated, which is awesome. Lived in a great deal of instability, and had a full-time job here in Hutchinson, was just trying to figure out how to land. And that is one of a bunch of stories, that I've, small stories that I've interfaced with in the last year and a half. And so I think what I want to encourage our community about is this doesn't mean there's anything wrong with our community. In fact, this shows up and has been present for forever. I mean, we have situations and we have experiences of all types that would have us be in a place where we don't have a home or don't have a consistent place to live. This has always been true. But I think what makes this time in 2019 interesting is that we are in a time where people are living away from the place that they were born in a greater number than we ever have seen. This is happening in our state, in the States. It's happening across the world. We're just seeing people traveling. We have more opportunity to travel. We're in different places for economic reasons. Tons of reasons why we're not living really close to family, or we don't have as big of a family as we used to.
Yeah.
So in an older narrative where we had everyone lived within 15 miles of each other, and so if something was struggling in some way, you had an aunt or a parent or a sibling who was like, yeah, Mary, come in, you know.
Exactly.
It's not happening in the same way. And so I want to just encourage our community, when we hear some of these things, I think it can feel overwhelming, or sometimes I've heard people get kind of frustrated or been like, well, why is it happening, or where is this coming from, or you know what I mean? And I think it's just understanding this is here. We have some awesome people that are addressing it, but we have a long way to go.
Right.
We have a long way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the misnomers that I hear all the time is, well, they just need to get a job.
Right.
Or, well, they just need to try, or, and so many of the people who are homeless have a job.
Have like 3. I think the statistic is folks that are living in homelessness have on average 3 jobs.
So it's not like they're not working hard.
Yeah.
It's not like they're not trying. It's just the circumstances that have put them there, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Their car broke down, so they couldn't pay rent, and they got kicked out because they needed to be able to have their car so they could get to work. It's those situations, we hear about them, like through the emergency food shelf, right? It's that they had to pay this bill and they didn't have enough money to cover food for a month. Those things are happening so much more.
Yep.
And it just is what it is. And I think sometimes we, as a society, we tend to jump to judgments very quickly.
Right.
And they're unfounded, biased. And so I just would hope that people would maybe lend themselves to learning a little bit more information before they just jump to conclusions.
Yeah, I think that's such a great example. I mean, I think the best thing we can do is speak from our own stories. So I think about, as you're talking, I'm just reminded, so I'm from Wisconsin and went to school in River Falls, and I made my way to the Twin Cities. I was working with a band, and I got this internship with this really wonderful nonprofit in the Twin Cities, but I was making very little money, right? And I jumped into this apartment. I didn't really have any savings, living with some friends, picking up an extra job, like biking downtown to this coffee shop or whatever. And I remember to get there, I had to have 1 month's rent as a deposit, and I did not have that money.
Yeah.
I did not have it, and I was trying to navigate this. I was new to the city, new to this thing, like, what do I do? How do I do this? And so even in my own situation, the only way I was able to figure that out is I had a family friend who was like, let me lend you this money and I'll take care of that, and then you can just pay me back. And I think about that. That was like my first step really as like an adult, making a decision to do that. And if I wouldn't have had that person, like, oh my gosh, like it would have been a very different way for me to land in that season of my life.
Yeah.
And so I have an amazing amount of support. I have a family. I have all these things that give me a step ahead. So I think about all of these pieces and stressors and mental health and all these different things, abuse, things that people experience, and trying to navigate through a world when you have all these other pieces too.
Yeah.
It's amazing that people are so resilient that they're able to do what they're doing as best as they can.
Yeah. I think of it as somebody mixed up the puzzle pieces from one puzzle to another, and you're trying to make this fit.
Yep.
But it doesn't go there.
Yeah.
I remember when my husband and I were both going to school.
Yeah.
And trying to navigate that and jobs, and like literally, if at the end of the month there was $5 extra,
Yeah.
we weren't going out and eating. College kids, we weren't going out to the bars. We weren't doing those things. We were just trying to make it day to day. And I remember, I was okay with that. We were happy.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
We didn't need to do some of those crazy things, but will the paychecks. School wasn't as expensive as it is now, right? But if you know that the school bill is coming, and you know that rent is coming, and it might have been a colder month, and whether that was included or not included in the rent, those things we still took it for granted.
Yeah, right.
There's so many things that we do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's segue a little bit and talk a little bit about community, because we both do so much in the community, and there's so many great things and opportunities in the community.
Yes.
You, as somebody new to Hutchinson, were able to just jump right in. Like you said, you kind of had a VIP pass.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah.
But for somebody else who's new, who doesn't have that VIP pass, because a lot of times I think I hear people go, oh, well, there's clicks.
Sure.
We're clicky, right?
Yeah.
But I heard someone one day, not that long ago, say, you know what? If you are involved, that's when you realize that it's not about a clique. We look at a group of people and think they're a clique right away because we're not part of that group, but we didn't ask to be part of that group. So what advice would you give somebody who's moving into Hutchinson, and or vice versa, somebody who's meeting somebody who's new to Hutchinson?
Yeah. Well, I think like you mentioned, like my husband and I think have felt extremely welcome to the community, which is awesome. But we do feel really lucky. You know, we already had some connections kind of here, and so we kind of came in, I think, with some privilege around just like sort of having a sense of what this community looked like. We're also kind of like extremely extroverted, so like, you know, meeting new people, that's kind of in our wheelhouse, and that feels comfortable. And I know that is not the case for all of us. For actually half of us, that's not the case. So, so what I think what I would just say is, I think knowing, one, that you belong here. You know, there's this really great quote when I stepped into this new position, and there's those days where you're kind of like, oh my goodness, is this too big, or is this not? You know, like you have some of those feelings of self-doubt or whatever your job is. We all have those days. There's this great quote by Brene Brown that just says, "No one belongs here more than you." Like that's just it, and it's something I just have on my computer. So I think, one, I would just encourage like all of us, myself included, that like, whatever you're stepping into, like just remember, like you belong here and we really need you. And I think there's narratives and our own narratives that we've created, or things that have been told to us in the past that say that you don't belong, you're not the right person to be here, you're not funny enough, you're not outgoing enough, you know, whatever. I mean, and this is just
not tall enough.
Yeah, not tall, whatever, smart, whatever the thing is, you know, like, so I think, one, I think just know that like, you know, you really belong here, and I definitely believe that if you're here for a reason. It matters that you're here. So I think kind of walking into any sort of situation trying to remind yourself of that really shifts our perspective. Because if I go into a day feeling like people are out to get me and I don't belong, I mean, that's how it's going to feel, and that's what I'm going to experience. I'm going to feel like people are out to get me, or that I'm weird or whatever it is. Yeah. So I think some of that's just kind of like setting ourselves up as best as we can to know, like, yep, I'm here for a reason. And then I would definitely say, like you've mentioned, there are so many ways to get connected. I mean, it's amazing how many different like subcommittees and groups that there are of people and boards and activities going on. And I think sometimes it can feel a little scary or feel a little beyond someone's maybe capacity to say, yep, I'm going to be on a board of directors. But, you know, we have so many wonderful things, whether it's River Song, Arts and Crafts. There's all these different, even we just participated in this Ignite event at the Ridgewater, where you can pop in for a day and kind of get a feel and interact and interface with a bunch of people for the first time. And so if you're new, I would encourage you, like, just give a couple things a try, like try it out. And then here's what I would also say though, for someone to come to be here, new to our community, to step in and say, I'm going to volunteer for a thing, I'm going to show up when I'm not going to know anybody, that is so scary. I don't care how extroverted you are, that is scary. Yeah. So what we need the other folks in the room who have a place in the community, or who have been, are a part of committee or whatever it might be. We really need people to like identify and like, reach out beyond themselves and just take a moment to like not just introduce yourself, but then like let's grab pizza, or like, do you want to play sand volleyball on my really bad sand volleyball team one night? Great, let's, like, stakes are low, like whatever it is. I think it really like requires, like, we have to meet each other, halfway. And I think, along with that, like, it's authenticity is a word that we're hearing a lot, and it can maybe be a little bit kind of thrown around, but I think like just trying to figure out how can we move past some of the niceties. The niceties are fine. Talking about the weather's fine. It's interesting because the weather's always doing weird things here, so that's great. And I'm, a part of a farm family, so the weather really matters. Like, so those things we're going to talk about, but then how do we move past some of those niceties and like have really get to know each other? How
can we dig in and learn? I would tell anybody who's coming in, what's important to you. You don't have to have kids in the school to be engaged in the school. You can really enjoy music and not be able to read music, but they'll help you if you want to join a bell choir.
Yeah.
Right?
That's cool. Yeah.
I know. I have no musical talent. Those things scare I don't need, right? But I like to be creative. I like to plan events. I like to do those things, so I'm able to do those things. But I would encourage two people. There's a lot of opportunities where you can try for 2 or 3 hours even. Where you can come and do a shift and just help vendors come into arts and crafts, or be at the gate and wave and welcome people when they show up to River Song. There's so many of those types of activities. And my friends, if you loved playing kickball when you were in elementary school, I got an event for you.
That's right. Yeah, so
I love that. Let's just segue, because that like that was genius.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of those great. I heard you say this recently at an event. We borrowed that idea from another United Way. So basically, we did our first annual Kicking It From a Cloud kickball tournament in September, and it was awesome. This was to benefit or to raise money for one of the programs, one of the many programs United Way is a part of, called the United Way Activity Scholarship Program, which provides activity scholarships, whether it's band or wrestling or whatever, for middle school students in McLeod County. And so we did a kickball tournament. We had 9 teams. People had a blast. Some people took it way too seriously. Some people got injured. But all in all, people had a really good time. And we had some amazing sponsors and great food. And the whole thing happened. And it was great. I mean, it's an awesome example of community. This was an idea that we had heard of. We knew it was going to be a really low-cost event that would have a really high return on fun and hopefully on fundraising as well. And that's what happened. And the only reason it happened was because we had people show up. We had people show up, and it was a blast. And so we are going to be doing it again on, it'll be September, I think it's the 12th, it's a Saturday. And we'd love to have more teams. We'd love to have you there. We need some people that are pumped about being umpires. So if that's in your wheelhouse, we'd love to have you. But yeah, that's one of the few events that we have coming up. Do you mind if I share a couple other things?
Yes, please.
So
no, do.
Kind of talking about this idea of community, something that we started last year was we had our first annual Rural Women Conference, and we had about 65 women in the room. Ted Matthews, who's focusing on mental health in rural communities, he was our keynote speaker, and we're doing our second annual Rural Women Conference coming up on Friday, December 6th. It's a morning event, 8 to 12 at the Silver Lake Auditorium. And we're really excited. One of the pieces of feedback we got last year is people were like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know so many people in the room and I wanted to get to know them more. So could we have done a little bit more like interacting? So this year I'm gonna be doing a little bit of, I'm gonna do one of the sessions. We have a panel of rural women who are gonna be sharing kind of their stories. The focus is around change this year. So we're talking about change. How do we experience change? How do we celebrate change? How do we recognize when we're in change? So we have.
How do you navigate?
The
pieces and parts?
Yeah. Yep. So it's going to be a really cool topic. And on our panel, we have Laura Frericks from Loon Organics. We have Bonnie Moore from Bonnie Moore Studios. We have Mary Nelson, who works for the UM Extension. And then we have food being catered by Tiff Bernard, who just has a new catering business. And it's gonna be an awesome morning. So, and what I like so much about this event is it really is about just connecting women, empowering women, and getting to know some new people in the community. So that would be an awesome way for you to get connected. You can find out about that on our website.
Yeah. And if you're looking for other opportunities, call us at the Chamber. We'll hook you up. There's lots of different things going on. No matter what your interest is, there's something here that we can all help align you with.
Totally.
And your level of involvement. Whether you want to just do something for a couple hours or you're one of those people who wants to be a board member and wants to be hands-on and wants to do those things, there's different opportunities.
So many, data entry. I mean, I don't know, like whatever your thing is that you're pumped about, there's definitely a need. And that's one thing too, like some of the board members I've found have just literally been people being like, hey, tell me more about what you're doing. Like, are you, that sounds kind of interesting. Just like asking some of those questions, which is cool. So
the last thing I want to talk to you about, and it's just education for people to understand, is about fundraising for nonprofits.
Yeah.
Because, we're rolling in dough.
Yeah, it's amazing. I sleep in a bed of money and then I get the money out of my hair.
And we literally, do this. Or we don't.
Right, yeah.
So you have fundraisers, we have fundraisers,
Yep.
and the importance of people participating in something and understanding why that's happening.
Yeah, I am learning to become an expert fundraiser. I'm changing the way I'm talking about that because this is a new world for me, and what I've learned as both being someone who gives financially, but now as someone who's helping to fundraise for an organization that's trying to support a lot of different programs in our county. I think talking about money can be hard. Talking about giving can be hard. You mentioned before that there are 300 wonderful nonprofits in Hutchinson alone. And so I think I heard this thing, and I've told people like five people this last week, so I need to like research this. But I think I read somewhere that like in the last 5 years, 10 years, like nonprofits have grown like by 700%, or something like that. So there are just so many amazing ways to give, and so it can feel a little bit hard too as people are trying to navigate. How do I give? Where do my dollars make the most impact? But I think what I'm learning is people want to give. But they want to know why, right? They want to be brought in. They want to be invited. Talking about community, what a great feeling to be like, hey, Mary, like, do you want to hang out? I really appreciate like how joyful you are. Let's I don't know, whatever. Like, just finding a reason to invite someone in, and financially, like you're saying, United Way doesn't exist if it isn't for the community. The chamber doesn't process or run the way that it is if it's if it's without partners, without people that are financially offering it. So we need volunteers. We need people showing up. We need people on our board, and we really do need people who are committing financially to say this matters. We want to continue to see this in our community, and I'm going to do that, whether that's through payroll deduction or a one-time gift or supporting an event or whatever it is. Like, that financial piece is really important. And I think for myself as a fundraiser, what I'm learning is it really is about like just having the conversation, being really clear about what it is that you need, and not being afraid to say like, hey, here's what we need, and being really clear about that, and being okay if someone's like, sorry, I can't meet you there, or I can't meet you all the way there. And that's a really vulnerable thing. It's a vulnerable thing to be a fundraiser.
So I have fundraising in my past, and it's always about aligning a donor's intent with the opportunity. So as a donor, you have the control. But I'll never forget an interview that I saw with former presidents Clinton and Bush, the elder Bush. They wrote a book together, and they talked about how philanthropy was a selfish act, because it makes you feel so good when you give your time, your treasure, your talent, and the things that you get out back from that versus what you're giving is multiplied. And so whether you're thinking about helping with something, if you have some dollars to give, if you have a talent that you truly can share, that's a true gift. And so that's what, everybody has a gift. Everyone has a gift. If you think you don't, Hannah and I will prove to you that you do. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
If you want to find United Way, they are on the 200 block of Main Street. Do you guys still call it the Hope Center?
Hope Center is on the little window.
Okay, perfect. So if you don't know where that is, between Genesis Salon and Enso Spa and Southwest Eye Care, right in there, that's where you will find Miss Beautiful Hannah Choflat. And you can get more information on their website or on our website at explorehutchinson.com. As always, there's always much in Hutch. We want to thank KDUZ, KARP, and KGLB for always being a great sponsor of the Much in Hutch podcast. I hope that you'll join us next month, because we'll be telling you more about the great community of Hutchinson. And that's a wrap, my friend.
Nice. Thank you.